Hey folks, happy Friday. Welcome into the Cam Rogers Show. I am Cam Rogers. Hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. It is June 1st, 2018, and Game 1 of the NBA Finals is in the rear view mirror, and what an exciting matchup it was. It's literally LeBron versus a bunch of all-stars. That's the best way I can kind of characterize this matchup. Cavs, Warriors, Game 1. Harris Rubenstein, take me to Oakland, please. And first quarter we go. Cavs in possession, but not for long. Shot block by Draymond Green. Steph Curry will throw it up for Kevin Durant, who puts it down. Second quarter we go now. Cavs up 1. LeBron's going to power through Sean Livingston to throw it down with authority. Historic night for James. I'll talk about that. Clock winding down here in the second. Durant with possession. He's going to collect the ball here. He's going to toss it to Steph Curry from way deep. He nails it. The game is tied heading into the second half, and that was just the beginning. Perhaps just a memento to what was to come the rest of the game. End of the third we go. Golden State up 5. And how about this cut by Durant with no one around him? Easy 2 there. Warriors up 84-77. End of the fourth now. LeBron James in control. James will make the hard take to the rack, somehow gets the shot and the foul. LeBron is feeling it there. As we show you the take one more time here. Fantastic power. This was an unbelievable play. By the way, the chest bump by LeBron after that was fantastic. All right, so next up, Cavs up by 2. Warriors trying to make some magic. Curry slices through, tosses it off the glass, and 1. Warriors tie it at 106. All right, now we're tied at 107. Cavs free throws rebounded by J.R. Smith, who brings it back out with 4.7 seconds remaining. J.R., what are you doing? The clock winds down. Eventually, George Hill shoots it up. It's blocked, and we're going to overtime. One of the greatest blunders I have ever seen. In OT, it was all Warriors. Draymond dishing it to Livingston, who slams it through, and that would be that. Golden State captures Game 1, 124-114 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Game 2 at Golden State here, 8 o'clock Eastern Time this Sunday. LeBron scored an incredible 51 points in this one on 32 shots, an NBA Finals record for a losing team. Isn't that just the epitome of LeBron James with the Cleveland Cavaliers? Going off and yet in a losing effort. He made clutch threes. He made all but 1 free throw. He only turned the ball over 5 times, which is absolutely incredible because the guy had the basketball so many times throughout this game. But the play everyone is talking about is that blunder by J.R. Smith. He said he thought it was tied and was thinking a timeout would be called, and Ty Lue obviously thought otherwise. We have the tweet here of the differentials in the statement. So J.R. Smith, I was trying to get enough to bring it out and get a shot off. I knew we were tied. I thought we were going to call a timeout. I thought we were ahead. If I thought we were ahead, I'd have held onto the ball and let them foul me. So he thought a timeout was going to happen at some point. Ty Lue just went on the podium, as you see here, according to Slater, and said J.R. told him he thought they were up 1 and was trying to run the clock out. So I really don't know who's telling the truth because somebody's lying here. And then the New York Daily News was pretty clutch with this. Anybody remember this game? New York Knicks against the Houston Rockets, and JR legit didn't know the score that time. So the New York Daily News brought that out of the old archives there because you know it's old when you see Tom Coughlin at the top and the Indianapolis Colts in the playoffs at the bottom there. That was back in 2014, by the way. It wasn't a playoff game, but still, this could be somewhat of a systemic issue for J.R. Smith going forward if he kind of continues this type of mentality of not knowing the score at the time. And the interesting point that I think everybody should kind of think about here is, like, I know we are talking about NBA players here who make millions and millions of dollars, but they don't talk about what the score is coming out of the break, or at least like understanding the situation. Like, what are the more fundamental things that you learn in sports, and not just basketball, baseball, football, etc. You learn to know the situation at hand. When you get the ball, you need to know what to do with it. And baseball is actually one of the great comparisons because There are so many different individual responsibilities when you get the baseball, depending on where you are at your respective position, right? Second base, maybe you go to first base. Maybe if it goes to third base, you turn two, whatever the case may be. Same can be said here in basketball, of course, with J.R. Smith getting that offensive rebound. By the way, nobody's talking about that. Very impressive offensive rebound. And then goes ahead and dribbles it out. LeBron's like, dude, what are you doing? And after it's all said and done, we go to overtime, and the Warriors just continue to roll and roll and roll. They end up winning this game, and really fantastic performances from the likes of Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, all over 20 points apiece. And the water cooler discussion this morning among everybody at the office, at school, is J.R. Smith and the mistake that he made. And now you have to wonder if, from a symbolic standpoint, can the Cleveland Cavaliers combat that? As we show you, here's the play right now. JR taking it out. He's looking around. LeBron's like, dude, what are you doing? There's the George Hill shot that gets blocked. So it's like, obviously there was a huge mental error. LeBron is having none of it. JR is beside himself. And the only thing you can do if you're Smith, by the way, is go forward. I'll draw an NFL comparison. Marcus Williams, safety against the Minnesota Vikings in that playoff game where he let Stephon Diggs run wild for that clutch touchdown. So, you know, it's one of those things. Obviously, this loss is just a loss. This is best of 7 series. It's not like the NFL. But I digress. I think J.R. Smith is going to have to, from a mental standpoint, kind of look past things a little bit and just move on to game 2. But he better not be reading any of the papers out there, and probably shouldn't be tuning into the Cam Rogers show right now because, well, I'm kind of talking about him as we stand. But there you go. The Cavs are down 0-1. Game 2 is on Sunday, and we'll see what happens. I have the Warriors actually winning this series in 6. And how about some more hilarity in all of this? No shot JR, unbelievable stuff. The papers are going to go wild, folks. If you are out there in New York City, if you're watching the show on the phone, whatever the case may be, and you go to one of those stands out there with all the newspapers sitting there, oh my God, I can't even imagine what will be on display, right? So J.R. Smith, you got to wonder, at the end of the day, is this like a chronic issue for him? It's only happened a couple times in his career, but obviously a couple times too many. And we'll show you the side-by-side. LeBron on the right beside himself. On the left there, the New York Knicks and J.R. Smith forgetting the score back in 2014. So, yeah. It's just... NBA Twitter, by the way, folks, is like having an absolute ball with all of this. The memes are all over the place, and I would hate to be J.R. Smith today and tomorrow. For him, Sunday cannot come fast enough. That's all I'll say there. All right, folks, there you go. That's the latest across the NBA Finals. You guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show. I am Cam Rogers. Hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. Let me know what you think about the program. We are indeed presented by Autolist. If you are looking for a new or used car out there, Autolist is the way to go. If you're tired of browsing a million sites, go to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of inventory on the web or download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. All right, folks, let's get into some NFL discussion, and we'll talk about the latest NFL headlines here on the Cam Rogers Show. Today's top story surrounds Colin Kaepernick and that ongoing collusion case against the National Football League. What is the story? Well, Kaepernick's lawyer is hinting at new evidence and perhaps a witness that could totally turn this collusion case on its head. So, Attorney Garagos suggested a witness has concrete evidence proving that the NFL owners conspired to keep Kaepernick, and Eric Reid, by the way, from being signed. This is what he said, quote, "I would stay tuned because this case is about to take a dramatic turn." When asked what that meant, Garagos didn't elaborate, suggested, quote, "Somebody has decided they were going to dime out the NFL for what they were doing." A witness proving collusion would certainly contradict the NFL's position, because the current position of the NFL is the following. Each team decides whether a player can contribute to a team. So if neither player has been signed, it's because teams don't think they can help. That is the NFL's position, which is, by the way, just laughable. Now, if this were to take a dramatic turn, there must be some really serious, damning evidence here in favor of Kaepernick and against the National Football League, because I've said this before, how difficult it is in collusion cases to actually prove them to be correct. You need really concrete, hard evidence, concrete as you see on your screen there, because you need recordings, you need audio tapes, transcripts, documents, correspondence among NFL owners to prove that that's what they're trying to do, to keep Kaepernick out of the league, to keep Eric Reid out of the league as well. And we'll pull up the statement from Garagos so you guys can see it on screen too. And this news is also interesting because Garagos did his interview on CNN recently, and that was after the Wall Street Journal report came out, which described how the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is influencing the NFL's owners to implement the new anthem policy and kind of shun players' ability to kneel during the national anthem. There's what Garagos said, and the timing is interesting. That I can tell you. Who leaked the depositions to the Wall Street Journal? Garagos or one of Garagos's cronies or henchmen or however you want to put it. I mean, it's the Kaepernick camp that is going through all of this. So perhaps there is more to be known, and we'll stay tuned indeed. The more this goes on, I think the more people will realize that this isn't just a stunt by Colin Kaepernick to get back at the NFL. He firmly believes the NFL owners are colluding against him. Why would he be fighting so hard to win this case if he actually just wanted to get some PR or, just take a stab at the NFL? No, he's trying to win this. And Garagos going on CNN with an interview and this Wall Street Journal report that is coming out. It's all very interesting. Do you think the NFL owners are colluding to keep Kaepernick out of the league? Let me know in comments on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. I've got the broadcast on my laptop right in front of me, folks. I'll be sure to track what you guys say. But it's a polarizing topic, a lot of opinions on many sides here in regards to this. But the story is Kaepernick's lawyer is hinting at a witness coming forward and essentially snitching on the NFL with concrete evidence to prove, or to at least suggest, that the NFL owners are colluding against the former San Francisco 49er, Colin Kaepernick, and keeping him out of the NFL. One of the top storylines we'll be tracking here in the month of June. So stay tuned on that. So in that same vein, Kenny Stills, who has been a frequent kneeler during the national anthem, still hasn't ruled out kneeling this season, despite the new policy which states players must stand during the national anthem if they are on the football field. If they are not, they can do whatever they well please, because they'll be in the locker room. That is an option as well. But Stills has not ruled out kneeling on the football field, saying, quote, when the time comes, I'll make a decision. So he's still pondering all of this, and Stills has kneeled for every game over the last 2 seasons and actually got some support from owner Stephen Ross before. And if you may recall, Stephen Ross was named in the Wall Street Journal report about President Trump's influence on the new national anthem policy, where Stephen Ross essentially felt like he had no choice but to push forward this new policy because he didn't want the boycotts, the bad PR from the president and sponsors fleeing. Stills didn't outwardly criticize the league or the president here, so I must note that, but he did say the following, quote, I do understand that the message has been changed, but I also understand that as the NFL being the most watched sport in the United States and one of the most watched sports in the world, they have an opportunity to set the bar and set the standard and change the narrative and write the narrative how they want to. So if Kenny Stills kneels during week 1 of the NFL season, the Dolphins could be subject to fines, and then the Dolphins could also implement further punishment during the NFL season. So it could be a trickle-down effect where the NFL punishes the Dolphins, then the Dolphins punish Kenny Stills. One of the top storylines is who is going to stand and who is going to kneel. Should NFL players be allowed to kneel during the national anthem? Let me know in the reaction poll. Give me a heart for let them kneel. Give me a like for let them stand. Be sure to expand upon yourselves in the comments section as well. But we do know one player still not ruling out kneeling during the national anthem in the 2018 regular season. And this could get muddier and more divisive as we go along because now money is involved. Right? Before it wasn't. Before it was just you were encouraged to stand during the anthem, but if you were to kneel, there was no punishment. Now there is punishment by way of monetariness or money or however you want to put it, in that there could be more division because of it. Right? Because if money's involved, it's a whole new ball game. And if the Dolphins are getting fined, Kenny Stills could see some dents in the old wallet there if he does kneel during the national anthem. So we'll see what happens. He hasn't ruled it out yet. Stay tuned on that. All right, let's continue on here in the latest NFL headlines. Michael Kendricks is a free man because he was recently cut by the Philadelphia Eagles because of, quote, disagreements, which is the rumor out there. He's visiting the Vikings, Raiders, and Browns this week. Great linebacker, too. Had a really good 2017 ranking as the 9th best linebacker, according to Pro Football Focus. So all three team visits make some sense from various perspectives. You got the Vikings could join brother Eric Kendricks there. If he goes there, it's like the rich getting richer on the defensive side of the ball for the Minnesota Vikings. For the Raiders, could be the best opportunity to start right away, despite Tahir Whitehead and Derek Johnson being there at the linebacking core. And then for the Browns, perhaps the largest monetary opportunity, where Cleveland has $67.9 million in salary cap space. So could get a big fat contract from the Cleveland Browns if Michael Kendricks decides to go there. You know, I wasn't a big fan of the Eagles cutting him. It didn't really make much sense to me. I know they were kind of strapped for salary cap space, but he had a really good last year, so to just cut him kind of was weird. Like, at least try to trade him or something like that. But whatever the case, Michael Kendricks is on the free agency tour as we stand right now. Perhaps some more teams could surface as he goes throughout this process, but as we look at things now, it's the Vikings, Raiders, and the Browns as the favorites here as we go along. All right, let's go to the next headline here. It's about Johnny Manziel. He's not even going to start for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, folks. June Jones says Jeremiah Masoli remains the starter and says that Manziel isn't ready to run the full offense yet, and Manziel taking it in stride. I'm going to have to earn my stripes up here. Haha, I get it. Tiger Cats, Frosted Flakes, good stuff, Manziel. By the way, total tangent here. I was making breakfast this morning. I thought I bought shredded wheat. Ladies and gentlemen, I bought frosted shredded wheat, which has sugar, and I don't eat sugar, and I can't believe I did that, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. So if anybody likes frosted shredded wheat, hit me up at Mr. Rogers99. Maybe text me. DM me, I'll give you my phone number, whatever the case, but somebody needs to get that out of the apartment, please. All right, but back to Johnny Manziel here. I love the way in which he's going about all of this because he has the right mindset. First of all, he didn't rush things in trying to make that NFL comeback happen, and clearly he's not trying to rush things with the CFL either, right? Like, he didn't say anything bad about, well, maybe I should be the lead guy because, well, I've earned it being an NFL quarterback and a high draft pick and all this stuff. But no, he understands that he's back to level playing field with all the other players on the CFL. And he's going to have to earn it. So he understands that. And for now, he's a backup quarterback, which is kind of interesting to say. Will Johnny Manziel ever return to the NFL? That is the big-time million-dollar question I want you guys to answer. Give me a heart for absolutely, a like for no, and I will say, I don't think he will. I really want him to, but I don't think he will, at least as a starting quarterback in the NFL ever again. Maybe he could be a backup option or something like that, and maybe he is brought in for some workouts just so teams can kind of scout him out and see what he can do. But return to the NFL in a starting capacity, probably not. Return to the NFL in general, probably. So that's kind of where I fall there with Manziel. But the headline right now is he's a backup quarterback for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, team he recently signed with on a 2-year deal. All right, so from one quarterback to another, let's talk about Andrew Luck, who has yet to throw the pigskin this offseason. So Peyton Manning has recently chimed in on the matter, saying that Luck needs to get a lot of reps. Quote, getting as many reps as possible is key. And, well, the problem is Luck hasn't really been doing that. Manning said he believes in the theory of 10,000 reps, which is based off of Malcolm Gladwell's principle that it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become world-class in something. So there you go. You learned something today, folks, if you haven't heard about that. Andrew Luck, like I mentioned, yet to throw a football this offseason, was out for the entire 2017 season due to a shoulder injury. And Manning, I guess, speaking from experience here, if you may recall, missed all of 2011 with a neck injury. That's when the likes of Curtis Painter were playing quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, and, of course, they got the #1 overall pick, and the rest is history. This injury, ironically, led to the start, of course, of Andrew Luck's career. So interesting in how all the dominoes kind of fell there. But if Luck is healthy and ready to rock for the Colts, by the time, say, training camp comes around, I don't know, guys, watch out for the Indianapolis Colts, because they could be an interesting team to watch out for in the AFC South. I know the AFC South is very, very tough to predict at this juncture. Tennessee Titans look pretty good. The Texans are getting Deshaun Watson back. Jacksonville was just in the AFC Championship game. And the Colts are definitely not the most talented team in the NFL. But you've seen before how good quarterbacks can carry teams, right? Aaron Rodgers did it for a few years with the Green Bay Packers when their roster wasn't as good as, other rosters out there. Andrew Luck can kind of do the same thing, same principle there. He played behind really bad offensive lines and took the Colts to the playoffs a couple times. So we'll see what happens. I still think Andrew Luck will be good to go for Week 1 of 2018. But for fantasy football people out there, I wouldn't draft him at all. All right, let's go to the next headline on the list here. So you guys probably heard about Cassius Marsh calling out the Patriots and talking about how the Patriots aren't really fun and, Bill Belichick's too grumpy and all this stuff. Well, we have some players coming to the defense, more specifically Dante Hightower, who agrees with the head coach of the New England Patriots in Bill Belichick about priorities. Here's what Hightower recently said. Quote, it's not for everybody. It's definitely harder than most places, but that's part of it. Went on to say, it's not Bill's job to make this fun and this atmosphere fun. It's the guys around it. Hightower says he has fun with his teammates in and outside of practice. Now we're talking about just two people here. This is a very small sample size. We're talking about Cassius Marsh, and we're talking about Dante Hightower. Okay, so two different sides of the story here. But I'm going to tell you why Cassius Marsh has a better argument. Let's look at Rob Gronkowski and the Instagram post that he made when Danny Amendola left for the Miami Dolphins. Do you guys remember that caption? I've said it before on this show, where Gronk said to Amendola, go be happy and be free, and all caps, happy and free, subliminal messaging, folks, okay? There's something going on there with that. And then Tom Brady not showing up for OTAs, which is not his MO, and Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, who is a very well-respected insider in this industry, saying that maybe Tom Brady has just had it with Bill Belichick. And I will go to another point. You remember the New York Daily News coming out with an article during the offseason, beginning of the offseason, that said that Bill Belichick was ready to seize upon the vacancy left by Ben McAdoo and the New York Giants there in the head coaching position, that Bill Belichick was looking into getting that position. So all I'm saying is there is more and more smoke, and perhaps there is some fire here, and Patriots fans, come at me. I hear you. But all I'm saying is I'm just laying out evidence after evidence after evidence. This isn't just me spewing BS. This is me literally pointing to concrete evidence that supports what I am saying. The Gronkowski caption on Instagram. Cassius Marsh's comments about the Patriots. All right, the Mike Florio story about the New England Patriots and how maybe Tom Brady has had it with Bill Belichick. The Tom Brady not showing up to OTAs. I mean, all of it just falls in line with what I am saying here, but I could be completely off, and I will say that I could be, for sure. I mean, maybe all is right with the world with the New England Patriots, and I'm just you know, some goofball. But hey, we'll see what happens with the Patriots as we go throughout mandatory minicamp and training camp and then preseason and all this stuff, because maybe for the first time, all is not right with the world with the Patriots. I know this seems to be a theme year in and year out. Oh, it's ending now. This is it. Time to put the nail in the coffin in the Patriots dynasty. Maybe not so much. All right, so there you go. That's the latest there. All right, let's get to the Dallas Cowboys, who have some hopes for one David Irving, defensive tackle there, who's a good player, and Cowboys are hoping that Irving can get his act together. So Irving has been in and out of offseason practices. Defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli recently saying, you'd love to have him here, no question, but the guys who are here, I'm going all out. So he was placed on a second-round restriction tender for $2.91 million. Has struggled with off-the-field issues here, investigated for domestic violence allegations. That case was later closed after girlfriend recanted her allegations, kind of a Reuben Foster type situation. He was also suspended for 4 games last season for violating the league's policy on performance-enhancing drugs. So undeniable talent, which is why the Cowboys are hoping that this guy can get back on the field on a consistent basis. In 35 games, Irving has had 11.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 33 tackles. Cowboys are hoping that Irving can be a consistent player from a mental standpoint and, of course, from an on-the-field standpoint as well. By the way, I like the front line for the Dallas Cowboys. Big reason why I actually have them as a breakout team in 2018. I think they have the pieces there to be a legit squad. All right, let's continue on here in these NFL headlines. And the Chargers hype continues on. One LaDainian Tomlinson, NFL Network analyst, and, of course, an all-pro in his own right, running back formerly of the Chargers, saying that the Chargers are Super Bowl contenders on paper. Like, okay? When you say that, it's almost like saying, well, yeah, they look like they're a good team, and it looks like they're going to be in the Super Bowl, but that doesn't mean they're going to be in the Super Bowl. So it's almost like a cop-out, like, yeah, I'm kind of predicting that they're going all the way, but I'm kind of not. And taking a look at some of these key contributors here, hey, the argument can be made that the Chargers are going to be a legit team. Gordon, Keenan Allen is coming off a great year. Melvin Ingram is an unbelievable edge rusher, and Joey Bosa's there as well. Phillip Rivers still playing at a high level, and Casey Hayward just cashed out because guess what? He ranked #1 among all qualifying cornerbacks, according to Pro Football Focus a year ago. So Tomlinson says the Chargers have a top quarterback, a top defense, and Keenan Allen. So that's his reasoning there. Called quarterback Phillip Rivers best in the AFC West and one of the best in the NFL. Pointed out Jason Verrett, who's coming back from injury, Casey Hayward, Derwin James, whom the Chargers drafted at very good value in that first round. Couple of strong defensive ends as well. And Keenan Allen coming off a 102 reception, 1,393 yard, 6 touchdown season. So over 1,300 yards for Keenan Allen, which is like out of this world, and nobody seemed to talk about it, by the way. In addition, how about this? Broncos legend John Elway, current GM, called the Chargers the team to beat in the AFC West. So when your foe says that, maybe, by the way, it's a mind game to like bolster the egos of the Chargers. But on another side of things, maybe it's a show of respect. Will the Chargers make it to the Super Bowl? Give me a heart for heck no. Give me a like for sure. They got the pieces there. They got the defense that is built for the modern-day NFL with the edge rushers and the cornerbacks. Trevor Williams, haven't mentioned him. He's a good player. Desmond King, you saw him in the photo B-roll that we were flashing. He's a good player too. And I feel like I've fallen victim to this whole Chargers hype thing because I have them as a breakout team next year. But, I mean, you look at the roster, and it's very, very convincing. I look back to that Dallas Cowboys game, and, like, that's what the Chargers can do, if you recall from Thanksgiving, where the Chargers just absolutely balled out in that game. So, LaDainian Tomlinson certainly thinks L.A. could make a big-time move. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. All right, how about this headline here? Delaware has legalized sports betting, the first new state, so discounting Nevada, to offer sports betting here. Officials said Delaware had no legal hurdles preventing them for starting full sports betting, and wagering will begin on June 5th in 3 locations. Beat out states like New Jersey, Mississippi, and West Virginia to launch this. And Governor John Carney saying the following, quote, Delaware has all necessary legal and regulatory authority to move forward with a full-scale sports gaming operation, and we look forward to next week's launch. So there you go. First state to take charge here after the Supreme Court ruling that is basically legalizing sports betting from a national federal level. All right, next headline here. Jordan Howard expected to be the main guy for the Chicago Bears at the running back position. Very important news from a fantasy football perspective as all of you gear up for your mock drafts and whatnot. Head coach Matt Nagy said Howard will get a big workload, and the guy has had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 2,435 yards and 15 rushing touchdowns so far in his young career. Also has worked on his receiving skills, which is kind of the knock on him. Had only 52 catches for 423 yards and 1 touchdown over the last 2 seasons combined. Also included 2 very important drops in a couple of those games. Howard says Nagy has helped him improve his catching. And I'll tell you what, Matt Nagy is one of the great offensive minds out there that we just don't really talk about. So with him as the head coach, I think it's really important for Jordan Howard, but also the offense in general for the Chicago Bears, with a couple of new characters on that offensive side, more notably Allen Robinson, the big-ticket item, in the wide receiver sphere this free agency period. But there you go. Looks like Jordan Howard is going to get the workload, so Tariq Cohen's still there, a couple of other running backs that are capable. But as of now, Howard is the guy. So if he continues to play well into mandatory minicamp and into training camp, you can make a very strong argument that Howard will make the 3-down kind of situations all that much better for the Chicago Bears, and also make it easier on Mitchell Trubisky, because you don't want him throwing the football too many times either. All right, those are the latest NFL headlines here on the Cam Rogers Show, presented by Autolist. Are you tired of browsing a million sites looking for that new car out there? I'm telling you, Autolist is the way to go. Go to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of inventory on the web, or download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. You guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show. I am Cam Rogers, bottom of the hour, 10:30 on the East Coast. Let's get to a pretty cool segment here. So what I'm going to do is give you my 5 NFL teams guaranteed to make the postseason. Guaranteed. It's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I want you all to call me out next January on Twitter, in the comments, whatever the case may be. So without any further ado, my first team guaranteed to make the NFL playoffs, the Minnesota Vikings, with Super Bowl odds of 12-1 to get it done. And first of all, there is no reason for the $84 million man, Kirk Cousins, to struggle with this team. And I'll talk about him later in another segment. But we're talking about the Vikings here specifically because of that defense and how good it is from secondary to defensive line. They have the league's best defense, in my opinion. I have zero concerns about that side of the ball. I think they will be just fine, barring injuries, of course. The secondary will be balling out. They got Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, an elite safety. Andrew Sendejo is coming off a good year. Maybe Mackenzie Alexander will have a breakout year, and that will just be all that much more better. And then the linebacking core, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, they're great as well. They could even sign Michael Kendricks to bolster that core too. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. Then the front line, which is just straight up disruptive. Linval Joseph, Sheldon Richardson, Everson Griffin. You tell me how you're going to block those guys. I don't know if you can. And the San Francisco 49ers will get the first crack at the Minnesota Vikings, because Niners, Vikings, week 1, 1 o'clock. That's probably going to be the big early window game. Then you go to the offensive side for Minnesota. 2 prolific receivers in Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, along with a quality tight end in Kyle Rudolph, who I like a lot. Dalvin Cook is coming back from injury as well. So all those pieces are there for Kirk Cousins to be successful. As you take a look at some of the key contributors here for the Vikings, you know, it's no coincidence that I have 3 defenders there: Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, and Linval Joseph. I want to get a couple secondary players and a defensive lineman as well. Then you look at the coaching staff. Of course, Zimmer is still there, but they have John DeFilippo now as the offensive coordinator, and I've talked about him a lot of times on this program because I am a big fan of what he does and what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles in coaching up Carson Wentz and then dealing with the adversity of losing Wentz to injury and then still coaching up Nick Foles to a Super Bowl 52 victory. So, love that pick up there with John DeFilippo going to Minnesota. Now, the NFC North will be a dogfight. And I expect the Packers to be tough yet again. The Bears are going to be better, especially on that defensive side. They'll be scary good with Vic Fangio calling plays. The Lions won't be an easy out either. But somebody has to win this division. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to do it. And I want to put a bow on Kirk Cousins here. The pressure is on him to live up to that massive contract. We've seen this situation happen so many times. Big fat contracts happen, and then the player does not pan out in terms of return on investment. Kirk Cousins is going to have to buck that trend because we've seen it a few times before. I'll point to my guy, Joe Flacco, who certainly did that after getting that big fat contract, after winning the Super Bowl and not really panning out all that well in the years after, except for maybe 2014. So Kirk was the golden ticket of free agency, the white whale, if you will, among the quarterbacks. He has the pieces around him to be successful. Offensive line needs a little work, but other than that, I think Cousins can take this team to a top 2 seed. So not even just winning the NFC North. We're talking about a bye in the NFL playoffs. But all that aside, I am guaranteeing you, you will see this team in mid-January, in late January, and perhaps even February. All right, so the Minnesota Vikings are team number 1. Next team, guaranteed to make the postseason, Tennessee Titans. Talked about them a few times before because I'm in love with the Tennessee Titans. I love what they have on offense. If you guys watch my program a lot, you know I am a big fan of ground and pound football, and then play action off of that is the safest way to play offense. It's literally so simple. Good offensive line, run block, run the football, play action, open receivers down the field. If every NFL team could do that, they would. The Tennessee Titans can do that. Why? Because they have a great running back duo in Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis. That sets the tone from the start. They have a balanced offensive line with Josh Klein, Ben Jones at center. Taylor Lewan is there at tackle, Jack Conklin as well. A couple of feisty tackles at that. All right, so the offensive line is there. The running back duo is there. So the run game is going to happen for Tennessee. So the Titans should, in essence, be able to control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side. That, in turn, opens up the pass game off this play action here by Mariota, looking for the likes of Rashard Matthews, Corey Davis, Tawan Taylor, if he can pan out for them going into the next season. If you have linebackers coming up on all these play action plays, you're going to have open receivers down the field. It's just kind of a fact. If you played Madden before and you run the football well and you do the play action, you're going to find open receivers. Now, on the defensive side, I think that front seven can control the line of scrimmage too. Jarrell Casey, Benny Logan, Daquan Jones, these guys are good, especially Casey. Derek Morgan, Wesley Woodyard, Brian Orakpo, yeah, they're old, but they're still playing at a very solid level. And oh, by the way, first-round pick, Rashaan Evans, who could be the future of the linebacking core for them. And you got head coach Mike Vrabel, a former unbelievable linebacker in his own right, coaching up Rashaan Evans. So it's just like evidence point after evidence point after evidence point in terms of why the Tennessee Titans will be making the playoffs. You look at the secondary, too. You bring in Malcolm Butler. He can make plays. I really like Adoree Jackson. Played really well in his rookie season. Kevin Byard, as good as they come at the safety position, and we never talk about him. So in terms of the division, that too will be a dogfight, kind of like the NFC North. The Jaguars are going to be right in the thick of things. The Houston Texans are going to be a tough team as well, but I don't think they're going to the postseason. Too many offensive line issues. And then the Colts, I mean, if Andrew Luck is healthy, they won't be an easy out, but of course probably won't be a playoff contender. The Titans will either win the division or earn a wild card berth, but they will be going to the postseason. And I think it's likely that we get 2 teams out of the AFC South going to the playoffs. All right, so I talked about one NFC team, one AFC team. Let's go back to the NFC and my guarantees here to make the postseason. Talking about the New Orleans Saints now. Speaking of a balanced offense, the run game for New Orleans is a huge blessing. Why? Because you can keep Drew Brees fresh. You don't have to utilize him as much. He doesn't have to throw the football 55 to 60 times to win in a shootout. You got Alvin Kamara, the reigning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Mark Ingram, who will be out for the first 4 games. That's totally fine. Making up one of the better running back duos in the league. And then you got 6th-round pick Boston Scott, who could make some noise as well. The offensive line headlined by Teron Armstead and Andrews Pete and Ryan Ramczyk, who I like a lot, young player at tackle. Fantastic in pass protection, really good run blocking group too. And then there's Drew Brees, coming off yet another great season, led the NFL in completion percentage and yards per attempt. 23 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions. His fewest since 2004, by the way, in terms of interceptions. Didn't throw the football as much, didn't have to. And that's how it should be for the Saints going forward here. Now, the Saints, if needed, can win in shootouts. And I think that's the beauty of this offense, how you can run the football with Ingram and Kamara, do the play action down the field to the likes of Coleman and Michael Thomas and Cam Meredith. But let's say it's a shootout and the run game just isn't working for a game or two and the defense is tired and all that. You put it on Drew Brees to throw the football 45 to 50 times, and if you can do that with him a couple of games a year, I'm sure he'll have no problem being successful in doing so. So that's kind of the thing I like the most about the Saints on that offensive side. And then on the defensive side, I like it. Cornerback Patrick Robinson coming off an elite year with the Philadelphia Eagles slot corner there, joining the likes of Ken Crawley and Marshawn Lattimore, the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Lattimore was unbelievably good. Like a true shutdown corner. Demario Davis comes on over from the Jets to play at inside linebacker there. He should help out a lot in that area of the defense. And then the front line should be disruptive too with Marcus Davenport, whom the Saints gave up the world for some reason to get him. Cam Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, and then Alex Okafor. All good players in that front 7. So in terms of the NFC South, I could see 3 playoff teams yet again. Falcons, Panthers, Saints. But the team I'm most confident in are the New Orleans Saints because I just think they are the most balanced on both sides out of all 3 of those teams. But the Falcons are a very close second. The Panthers are kind of a bit of a gap there at number 3. But the Saints, I am guaranteeing, will make the postseason heading into 2018 and in January. All right, let's go to the AFC South yet again because I got another team for you guys for my guarantees to make the playoffs. The Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars have supplanted the Seattle Seahawks as that young defensive team that has to win now before all of their players become really expensive, right? That's who the Jaguars are now. And they own an incredible defensive front to start things off. Malik Jackson, Calais Campbell played out of their minds in 2017. And I don't see that changing anytime soon in 2018. Yannick Ngakoue is doing College Park proud. Maryland faithful there, coming off a really good season in his own right. So you can't block this team. You also can't throw against them. Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye are a top 3 cornerback pairing in the NFL, maybe even the best in the league. You can make that argument. Tashawn Gibson, Barry Church played really well last year. And so you got a good safety tandem, good cornerback tandem. Yeah, they lost Colvin, slot corner. They can fill that void. That's fine. They got rookie Ronnie Harrison, too, who could perhaps get some reps at safety. I'm expecting a big season from one player in particular, Miles Jack. Jack was one of the best coverage linebackers last season. His coverage grade of 85.3 ranked 8th among linebackers, and he ranked 2nd in cover snaps per target, cover snaps per reception, and yards per cover snap in 2017. All of that according to Pro Football Focus. In essence, the guy was unbelievably good in defending the pass. And I think he's only going to get better, and I think he's going to be a really important key piece to that defense there for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Didn't even talk about Telvin Smith, who came out of nowhere and had an elite year at linebacker as well. So you try to point out a weakness for the Jacksonville Jaguars, you could make the argument that it is on the interior of that defensive line, but they're getting Taven Bryan there to help things out and to stop the run a little better. They weren't very good last year. So the Jaguars will win in spite of Blake Bortles. And that's kind of my main argument here. You run the football with Andrew Norwell and Leonard Fournette, guard, running back, respectively, and you keep the ball out of Blake Bortles' hands. And look, I mean, the Jaguars have Dante Moncrief, too, who I'm very high on, and I think he can make some plays and help out Bortles a little bit in the passing game. Jaguars check in, and my 5 teams guaranteed to make the postseason. And with that, let's get to the final team on the list here. And it's kind of interesting considering I've been bashing on them for the last 60 episodes of the show. The New England Patriots, 5-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. And maybe this is more of an indictment on how bad the AFC East is. Somebody has to win that division. It's going to be the New England Patriots. It's been a decade since somebody else did it. We're talking about the 2008 Miami Dolphins, for crying out loud, when Brady got hurt that year. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I want to talk about the other teams first. Dolphins have the potential to be the worst in the NFL. I have no clue what they're doing over there. The Jets have to figure out their quarterback situation, and they're probably a couple years away. And the Bills have Josh Allen and A.J. McCarron. And they could end up being the same people by the time their careers are over. So they're not beating the Patriots. So the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. So in that vein, they're guaranteed to make the postseason. So that's my logic there. But as for the team itself, look, Tom Brady, reigning MVP, the greatest quarterback of all time. I will say that here on air. I've said it before. I don't see him slowing down this year. He's not eroding like Peyton Manning did with the Denver Broncos. And eventually he will, but he's just not doing that right now. So you got Tom Brady, obviously. Julian Edelman coming back is really important as well. Chris Hogan is a solid player too. I want to see something from Malcolm Mitchell. I'm seeing a lot in the Patriots media that maybe he can be a breakout player for them. We'll see what happens, but keep an eye on that name there for the Patriots. I really don't know what to think of this running back core other than to characterize it as classic Patriots. James White, Brandon Bolden, Rex Burkhead, Mike Gillislee, Jeremy Hill, Sony Michel. I mean, who's going to get the luxury of carries? I don't think any one running back will get a very hefty amount, and I think that's what the Patriots want to do. By the way, the Patriots don't care about your fantasy football team. It's quite clear about that. So then, of course, there's Rob Gronkowski coming back, which means a lot to this team. And then the defense appears to be in solid shape, especially that secondary. I think the secondary will be really good. You got the McCourties in the back end, as well as Stephon Gilmore, too. Like the addition of Adrian Claiborne on that defensive line. Claiborne played well for the Falcons last year. Should help in pass rushing. So all of that aside, you can talk about how good the Patriots are, but it's just been death, taxes, and the Patriots winning the AFC East for the last decade. I don't expect that to change this year. So the Patriots are my biggest guarantee to make the postseason in 2018. Here's the rundown of my 5 teams. Patriots, Jaguars, Saints, Titans, and the Minnesota Vikings. Those 5 teams will be playing in January. Book it. Seal it. All right, there you go. You're watching the Cam Rogers Show, presented by Autolist. Are you tired of browsing a million sites? Are you looking for that new or used car out there? Go to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of inventory on the web, or download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. We've had them along for the ride all week. We appreciate Autolist. All right, let's get into the next segment here on the Cam Rogers Show. I've got my 5 breakout players for the 2018 NFL season for the offensive side of the ball. I will eventually do the defensive side too. Let's start things off with Jerick McKinnon, running back of the San Francisco 49ers. He should thrive in the Kyle Shanahan zone blocking offense here. And Kyle Shanahan knows how to utilize his running backs. And you look at Devontae Freeman back in the 2015-2016 seasons with the Atlanta Falcons. 1,634 yards, 1,541 yards all-purpose in 2015 and 2016, respectively. Shanahan even got over 1,200 all-purpose yards from Carlos Hyde, who was apparently a, quote, bad fit for the offense. And then you insert Jerick McKinnon, whom Kyle Shanahan really, really wanted. Like, really wanted. The reports were out there that he was in a bidding war with the Jets to land McKinnon, and that's why the 49ers gave him such a big fat contract for the comparison to his production in his career. It was because Shanahan really wanted him, and he knows he can use him the right way. So I have all the faith in the world that Shanahan can get it done with this guy. Now, McKinnon is the prototypical dual play threat here. He can catch, he can run. He's a running back that can take advantage of schemed matchups, screen passes, swing passes, and the like. Also has really good vision and ability to see those gaps happen, exploit them in the run game. So this isn't about McKinnon getting 25 to 30 carries in a game. This is about McKinnon being everywhere on the football field and contributing in different facets of that offense. And in that same vein, you can say that he's going to be a PPR darling in fantasy football. So he's just going to be a really scary chess piece for this team. And meanwhile, the 49ers have bolstered their offensive line. Signed center Weston Richburg there. He's a great player when healthy. Joshua Garnett should be a solid guard. Joe Staley there at left tackle, playing at a high level. And Mike McGlinchey is the future at right tackle, too. So offensive line is shaking out to be pretty darn good there. So Jerick McKinnon will be a force to be reckoned with the San Francisco 49ers. And one more time, from a fantasy football perspective, should be high on all of your lists, at least in terms of PPR standard, PPR scoring. All right, let's go to the next guy, Derek Carr, quarterback of the Oakland Raiders. And in terms of Derek Carr, I'm banking on him going back to 2016 Derek Carr, because 2017 Derek Carr kind of seemed like an anomaly. And you guys probably remember I put the Oakland Raiders in my list of 5 breakout teams for 2018. So a big reason why will be because Derek Carr plays well. So going back to 2016, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and nearly 4,000 yards. That's the Carr I expect in 2018. The situation around him isn't all that bad either. I'm a big fan of that offensive line. Donald Penn is a capable tackle. Kelechi Osemele and Gabe Jackson are a couple of really good guards, road grader type of guards. Rodney Hudson is a top 5 center that nobody talks about. So this line should be able to pass protect the way it did a couple of years ago. And the Raiders have revamped their wide receiver core, too, to help out Carr, right? You have Jordy Nelson in town. You got Amari Cooper. You got Martavis Bryant. All the pieces are there for Derek Carr to be successful. Heck, Jared Cook might actually be good for once in his career. So, I mean, everything is there for Carr. And you can't ignore the Chucky factor. One of our on-air hosts here at Chat Sports was reporting that players feel rejuvenated with new head coach John Gruden in town. So you can't forget about that, the Chucky factor. Him being there, his presence, he was the white whale of the head coaching search, and now he's in Oakland coaching the Raiders. And now you got new OC Greg Olson as well. Should be able to put Carr in the right position to succeed. All right, so Derek Carr is one of my breakout players for 2018. Maybe not necessarily from a fantasy football side of things, although he would be a viable option, but definitely from an on-the-field kind of winning games side of things. All right, let's go to my next guy here, David Johnson. Set to break out because, well, he really didn't do much in 2017 because he missed most of it due to injury. So this would certainly be the biggest comeback of all the players that I discuss here. Johnson rushed the ball just 11 times last year, and he was primed for a big season with the Cardinals. When healthy, he's one of the best running backs in the NFL, amassing 1,200 yards rushing in 2016 to go along with 80 receptions in 20 total touchdowns. The Cardinals' offense should also be fairly decent. They addressed the offensive line, adding Andre Smith and Justin Pugh, who's a good guard when healthy. Mike Iupati is coming back from injury as well, so the offensive line should be much better than a year ago, especially because it's going to be healthier. The front 5 for the Cardinals last year was just decimated with injuries. Then you got Sam Bradford, who, by the way, could probably be a threat there with his arm. So it's weird to say, but he's a good quarterback when he's healthy. He's very accurate. He's a precise thrower. And so if Sam Bradford is healthy and playing at the level that I expect him to, that distracts the opposing defenses, right? And that will essentially allow David Johnson to find some holes in the A gap, the B gap, the C gap on that front line there and make some plays happen. Larry Fitzgerald, rookie Christian Kirk, those are some nice threats on the outside as well. So this isn't a situation where it's like David Johnson and a cast of misfits on the offense. There's some threats there around him. So OC Mike McCoy, I think he's a solid offensive coordinator. He tends to get a bad rap. The poor guy had to make an offense out of Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, and Brock Osweiler last year with the Denver Broncos. So, yeah, I'm going to give him a pass on that one. So that's the deal with David Johnson. I think he's in for a breakout campaign there with the Arizona Cardinals. All right, let's go to the next name on my list. We've got Sammy Watkins, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm still aboard the Sammy Watkins hype train. I think he is going to be a very good wide receiver, and eventually he is going to be an elite wide receiver, at least in my eyes. The Chiefs have an explosive offense in 2018, thanks in part to Alex Smith leaving. You got Patrick Mahomes now at the quarterback position. He can do more with his arm than Alex Smith ever did with the Chiefs. And then also, you got Travis Kelce, you got Tyreek Hill, and they should have really good years too. So in that vein, those two guys are going to get the bulk of coverage from a defense. Sammy Watkins is going to be that guy that just emerges out of nowhere and starts making plays, starts catching touchdowns in the red zone. Watkins' best year came in 2015 when he had 60 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. And that stat line was with the Buffalo Bills. Imagine what he can do with a fresh arm in Patrick Mahomes, other threats around him to distract the defense, and a good offensive mind, by the way, in Andy Reid. I think all of that points to a big year for Sammy Watkins. It's all relative in terms of breakout, right? Because there are so many mouths to feed on that Kansas City Chief offense there. That's why, for my stat line, I've got like 75 receptions, 900 yards, 12 touchdowns. I think that's a pretty good breakout season for Sammy Watkins relative to what you see here, what he has done the last 2 years. All right, so that's Sammy. Let's go to Kirk Cousins as a breakout player in 2018. Why? Well, he has no other choice, guys, because he's earning $84 million in guaranteed money. He literally can't be bad. There is no option. You are not allowed to be bad, Kirk, because you're getting paid so much. But in all reality, let's just start from the mental standpoint here. I don't think Kirk Cousins wanted to be in Washington. And I don't think Washington wanted him to be there. So sometimes the change in scenery can help a lot. But I think that will be the case with Kirk Cousins going forward. Should be better at Minnesota's system compared to Washington's as well. I've talked about the new offensive coordinator there, and John DeFilippo. He's a good OC. Plus, Cousins has plenty of weapons on that offense. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook coming back from injury, right? Latavius Murray as well, if you want to point at him. Kyle Rudolph, talked about him earlier in the show. All the chess pieces are there in place for Kirk Cousins to be successful and to have a breakout year with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he's going to feel a lot of pressure, and he should, with the way in which he's getting paid for these next few years. The only concern I have about the Vikings in terms of a collective offense is that offensive line. Mike Remmers isn't very good, and they'll need a better year from 2017 third-round pick Pat Elflein, but that was just his rookie year. He wasn't very good then. Maybe he'll be better in his sophomore season. But overall, the opportunity is there for Kirk Cousins to make some magic happen with the Minnesota Vikings, take them to the playoffs, and then perhaps take them to Atlanta for Super Bowl 53. So there you go. Let's summarize my 5 offensive breakout candidates for the 2018 NFL season. Jerick McKinnon with the 49ers. Derek Carr with the Oakland Raiders. David Johnson there with the Arizona Cardinals coming back from a wrist injury. Sammy Watkins, now a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he should be in for at least a very good red zone season. And then Kirk Cousins there with the Minnesota Vikings. You're getting paid that much. You better be good, Kirk. So there you go. Folks, you're watching the Cam Rogers Show presented by AutoList. Are you looking for a new or used car out there? Are you tired of browsing a million sites? Head on to Autolist.com, get that car shopping done in a flash, or download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone and Android today. All right, folks, that is the end of this episode of the Cam Rogers Show. I will see you on Monday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. If you missed any of this show, don't you worry. Keep it right here on this video because we're going to loop it for you. Have a great weekend, guys. Hey folks, happy Friday. Welcome into the Cam Rogers Show. I am Cam Rogers. Hit me up on Twitter